Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Wilson Center. The Middle East program is pleased to host Hela Cheikhrouhou, the Regional Vice President for the Middle East, Central Asia, Turkey, Afghanistan, and Pakistan at the International Finance Corporation for the 2025 Annual Haleh Esfandiari Forum. I will hand it over to Marissa to begin the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Faria. And Hela, welcome to the Wilson Center. I think the first time that you join us here. I'm delighted that we're hosting you as this year's guest for the Haleh Esfandiari Forum. And thank you, Haleh, for joining us today. So I know that there's a lot to cover, but I do want to kick this off with a focus on female labor participation in the MENA region. I think, we've done a lot of work on this topic in the last, 6 years since I've been here, and Haleh as well, when she founded the Middle East program more than 20 years ago. We are seeing progress when it comes to education amongst women, particularly tertiary education. I know in my home country of Jordan, there are more women in tertiary education and they're outperforming men, but that's not translating to the workforce. Of course, there are variations across the region. Why do we continue to see this trend? And what have your travels and work shown you in this regard?
Thank you, Marissa, and I'm really grateful that you're having me here, and I'm extremely inspired by Madame Hela Esfandiari, and I'm very honored to be part of her forum. So one of the things my colleague Niels and I have been doing over the last 18 months or so has been traveling all around the region. And whenever I go to one of the countries, one of my favorite sessions is the session with women leaders, where we discuss the condition of women. So the region I cover has 12 of the 22 Arab countries, but also has Pakistan, Afghanistan, which also have, basically the whole region I have, which includes also Central Asia and Turkey, also has some of this is common, right? However, if we look just at the Arab countries, common threads, of course, these are multidimensional matters. I'm originally from Tunisia, and of course, I lived also in Morocco, and I was responsible for the Maghreb countries at some point, and I worked on Egypt over time, so I know the MENA region well, and I would say that what the women of the region do not lack is creativity, talent, resilience, passion, hard work. What is holding us back or suppressing us is a whole host of aspects. One, not in a particular order, but by and large, women continue to be the ones perceived to have the onus of the care economy. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to caring for small children or for caring for elderly parents or the sick, it is expected that the woman would put her career on hold to do that. And one of the remedies, there are multiple remedies, but some of the remedies to that can include high quality and affordable childcare, developing the elderly care economy, which is shockingly lacking in many of the countries, being able to have a specialized nurse or whatever at home. But in addition, flexibility of the working hours is very important. So the flexi time is, I couldn't overemphasize it, because it can become a way of suppressing women by having this artificial lack of flexibility. We learned through COVID that a lot of things can be done from home. So why are we seeing a backlash on working from home, etc.? I think we need to think about not introducing biases that suppress the women potential. The productivity can be measured otherwise than through checking in and checking out. You could check in but never produce anything, but you could be very productive from home. So that ability to work flexibly. The other thing which may surprise you, but maybe not because you know very well the subject, is ability to access safely your workplace. So once you start to have online access to education, even if your mobility is by law restricted, it allows you to work around within the bounds of what the policymakers are willing to let you do. So, you know, when you shut a door in the face of a woman, she finds the window. You shut the window, she will find a chimney. So when I was in Afghanistan, I mean, they were really looking for a variety of solutions to keep being active, to keep studying beyond what the regime is saying, the maximum education, to keep producing. And one of the women entrepreneurs explained that she went 9 times to the regional offices and to the central offices in Afghanistan to get her business license renewed, to avoid any misunderstandings, etc. So there is resilience and perseverance, but there is also inordinately high constraints being imposed by the system. Again,
You know, women leaders, leadership, and the importance of role modeling and showcasing, basically, you know, giving them an opportunity to talk about their own journey to inspire others. But I want to zoom into the issue of leadership. We produced a report about 5 years ago that focused on women in leadership in the public sector. And there are mixed reviews, but essentially the barriers that we saw were both, you know, like a glass ceiling, but also a glass wall. So there were some women that were appointed to become ministers. You were one of them in Tunisia as Minister of Energy. So there are women ministers across the region. There are quotas in parliament, and so that gives women an opportunity to run and become members of parliament. But then when you look at the public sector, which in many countries in the region remains to be the largest employer, women may reach some mid-management level positions, but then, you know, the glass ceiling effect comes in. And then when you look at the functions, that's where the glass wall function also sets in, or the barrier, because you have women that remain in these feminine, you know, sectors that you mentioned, like education, the social development, culture, but you don't see them in ministries of energy, like for you, for example, or ministry of I think in the interior and defense, that was one exception with Lebanon, but that government was very short-lived. So again, why do we continue to see this? Are they the same barriers, and how do we work around that?
of course, we can only cover part of the topics that can be relevant here, but because as we are talking, I'm like, okay, there were other points, but it's okay. So one of the issues is networking. Networking is very important when it comes to reaching certain levels of seniority, and there you start to have the need. That's why having role models or having coaches. I have 3 specialists I work with in terms of executive coaching, etc. Because this is the largest number I've worked with at once, but I'm really enjoying it because, for instance, the way you talk as a woman in a plenary meeting, what is expected is a way, and the voice of women is accepted differently than the voice of men. So in the government I joined, there was the first Minister of Energy, but also the first Minister of Health woman, the first Minister of Finance woman, the first Minister of Tourism woman in the history of Tunisia since its independence. However, it was very remarkable that our voices were not as much tolerated when in the ministerial cabinet meetings. You are not expected to speak as much as the men. You're not expected to be or to deviate from the topic. You know, it's like you're supposed. So public speaking is one of the things I'm working on. They say actually you need to keep your tone conversational. Don't allow your voice to raise up and your rhythm to go fast, because that shows emotion and then you lose your credibility. So,
and you are the only female vice president at the IFC currently?
When it comes to the regional vice president covering
Yes.
the front line, basically
Frontline
the
basis.
regions, there is 4 of us. Currently, I'm the only woman regional VP.
So I want to zoom into the key sectors that you think have the most potential to be more welcoming to women, and how governments can invest more in these sectors. You know, from the travels that you've seen, you mentioned the digital economy, of course, but that also covers a lot of ground. And then after that, I would love to open it up for questions.
And that relates to what you told me about the glass walls as well, because I had this experience when I was in charge of mining in Tunisia, that the chairman and CEO of the whole phosphate mining and transformation into fertilizer explained to me proudly with his team how when women engineers applied for jobs, they would fail them in the psychometric test, because if they do too well in the technical test, at least the psychometric is judgmental enough that they can fail them. And I told him, you only have girls, how come you're doing this to women? He's like, no, because when they have kids, they don't want to work in the mine anymore, and then we have to create jobs for them in administration. So these kind of stereotypes, maybe one person did that and suddenly all women. So it's not for lack of talent or willingness or appetite. Another example, when we were selecting the country manager for Afghanistan, they gave me 2 top candidates recently, male. I interviewed them and I asked, if you have 100 million to invest to allow access to economic opportunities for women in Afghanistan, what would you do? They both answered me, we will focus on women who make carpets. So I said, okay, so 20 million Afghani women or girls wake up in the morning, they have one dream, let's make a carpet today. I mean, this, so it's not true, they can make it everywhere, but again, it requires